Hey folks, this is Rabble Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Tornado Tony Bennett.
And Tom Paget with a fresh crystal ball.
And we got lots and lots of fight stuff to talk about, but I wanted to open the show by giving a special memorial to the turtle down the street at the end of my road that got crushed today. Just trying to get to the pond. Poor little guy. Also brings a little bit of a fighting lesson to mind. Slow and steady does not always win the race, which we'll talk about when we get to UFC 274. Talking about Rose Namajunas.
Well, you know what?
I guess you could apply it to Canelo
too.
too.
A reminder of it reminds me of a very wise man, Mr. Miyagi, who once said, "Go right side of road safe, go left side of road safe, go in the middle get squished."
He was on the edge of the road, the poor little bastard. He got smushed, cracked right down the middle. He was just trying. There's a pond. There's like a.
Turtles are pretty tasty. You make some soup out of it.
Yeah. If I was that kind of guy, I would have scooped him up, but we'll just leave him. Anyway.
But yeah, I mean, we had a big weekend last week. It was a busy weekend, and a shocker.
Yep, Tony did it again. You suggested it.
Fighting under a rock.
I don't know how serious you were, but you kept saying, well, there's a chance Bivol could win this thing, and we're like, yeah, whatever, Tony. Whatever.
You know what? When I saw Bivol fight, in person a couple years ago, back in 2018.
Yeah.
We went down and we saw him, fight in Atlantic City. Fought a guy, a good tough fighter, but not a, I don't want to say not a world class fighter because he was, a legitimate title challenger, but not an elite fighter. That's a good word. Not an elite fighter by the name of Isaac Chalemba. And at the time, Bivol was 13-0, 11 knockouts. And he put on a good performance, but I wouldn't say it was particularly memorable or eye-opening. And yeah, he beat Chalemba. He won just about every round. But when it was over, it was instantly forgettable. So it's like, then now you go with, two different theories here. One is, yeah, he's a good fighter, and he's obviously skilled. And the other one's like, he's not spectacular. Well, the other night, he put on a performance, and when I was watching it, I kept getting almost like a vision in my head. And I'm like, I've kind of seen this before. Where have I seen this before? And then I was like, I know. And then I was like, nah, maybe I'm thinking. Maybe I'm just seeing things in my own little mind here. And then somebody on Facebook literally yesterday said, who he reminded me of? Winky Wright. An orthodox Winky Wright. And I said, holy shit, that was the same guy I was thinking of. Because if you go back and you watch Winky Wright's career, yes, he was a southpaw. Bivol is not. But Winky's career was a lot of straight punches. If you look at Bivol, he did not throw many traditional left hooks or arcing punches. His punches were straight. It was like instead of a 1-2 hook, it was a 1-2 jab. So his third punch was usually another jab, but it was a power jab. Which was a right type of thing. A very tight defense. Arms in tight, ribs protected, hard to break through that defense. So when the fight started, obviously, Canelo's the money guy, he's the favorite. The fight starts, and Canelo, for the first few rounds, I thought a very good strategy, and that was the Marciano strategy. He did it a year or so ago to Callum Smith, where he bludgeoned Smith's arms to take away his jab. For the first few rounds, he was hitting Bivol on the arms, on the biceps, on the shoulders, trying to if he couldn't get around his defense, he was going to try to break his defense. And I'm like, yep, Canelo's doing good. So for the first 4 rounds, I had Canelo winning 3 of them, but they were close. So they weren't spectacular. Oh my God, Canelo dominated that round. Spectacular, but they were close. But I favored Canelo. I think it was rounds 1, 2, and 4. I gave Bivol round 3 because he did land a few counter shots. From the last 8 rounds, I gave Canelo 1 round that I believe. Don't quote me on this. I believe it was the 7th. Now, other than that, of the 4 rounds I gave Canelo, and I had the final score 116-112 Bivol. The 4 rounds I gave Canelo were close. The 8 rounds that I gave Bivol were not close. He clearly dominated those rounds. He backed Canelo up. He hit him with 2, 3, 4 consecutive clean shots at a time. And he just looked like he was the superior fighter in that ring. So when someone was asking me about the scores afterwards, I said, I scored 116-112. Could I have scored 115-113 for Bivol, giving Canelo another round? No, I could not. I could not find another round to give Canelo. Could I have scored another round or 2 for Bivol, making it 117-111 or 118-110? Yes. A couple of those close rounds that I gave to Canelo could have been given to Bivol. So, a few things going back on this. They were talking, I forget if they mentioned it before the fight or early in the fight, that Canelo, in training for this fight, adopted a vegan diet.
Yeah.
I don't. Yes. I don't think that was a wise move. Now, if you're struggling to make weight, I can understand that you're doing things to cut yourself, cut your body weight down, and these fucking assholes
It's
keep
just a front,
me
Tony.
With these group text messages. I want to punch them in the face.
It's just a front. He's only doing it so he can go behind the scenes and eat the Myoplex bowl again. There's no way I have that in my system. I'm a vegan. Gonna eat them jacked up bowls.
But it's funny. If Canelo would have won that last round, think of what the scores would have been.
Yeah.
Think about it.
It would have been a draw.
That's an obscenity.
It is an obscenity. Now, from what I heard regarding the scores, it was all 3 judges had Canelo sweeping the first 4 rounds. All 3 of them. So after 4 rounds, it was 40-36 Canelo. After 9 rounds, it was 85, or what was it? Like 85, 84, 86. I think it was 86, 85 Canelo. So he was winning after 9 rounds.
Ridiculous.
And then Bivol swept all 3 rounds on the 3 judges' cards to win the fight. Now, did that vegan diet hurt him? I believe it did, because I know it's a trendy thing, and I know it's supposed to be a healthy thing.
We're gonna get letters from Joe Rogan.
Needs a protein.
No, Joe Rogan, I think, makes fun of the vegan diet, doesn't he?
I make fun of him all the time.
Yeah.
You know what? It brings up. It reminds me of something. Back about 20 years ago, they had a middleweight tournament, and they had 3 champions, and then the favorite was the challenger, and that was the 3 champions were Bernard Hopkins, William Joffrey, Keith Holmes, and then the favorite coming up in weight was Tito Trinidad. So of course they want to save the finals for the 2 best fighters, which was Hopkins and Trinidad. So they match Joffrey and Trinidad, and they match Hopkins and Keith Holmes. And Keith Holmes was a strict vegan. And I remember the press conference before that fight, because Hopkins, he was one, loved getting under guys' skins and talking shit on them and all that. And he asked Holmes about his vegan diet. Now, Holmes was a good fighter. You wouldn't exactly call him a great fighter, or you wouldn't even call him really a memorable champion. Not a great knockout puncher. He was just a slick boxer, and he won some fights. Bernard was sort of questioning him at the press conference about his vegan diet. And he goes, son, I'm going to tell you something right now. If you're going to get in the ring with me, you're going to need more than that tofu. You're going to need to be eating some iron and nails if you want to think about fighting me. And it was right. Like Hopkins, if the fight went to distance, but Hopkins roughed him up from the get-go. And there was no fear in that fight, because it was like, he was bullying him on the inside. You could tell he was just a physically stronger, more powerful, better conditioned guy. You know, where Holmes looked like he was emaciated and lacked strength. Canelo last week looked weak. He looked, I wouldn't say emaciated, but he looked like he lacked strength in that fight. And he looked like he was fatiguing faster than he has been. Early in his career, maybe when he was cutting weight for fights, Canelo would have like periods in around like the middle to late rounds, like around 7, 8, 9. If you go back and watch fights like Aristotle Lara, Austin Trout, where he looked like he was fatigued in like those mid to late rounds, and then he kind of turned it back on.
Yeah.
He looked like that the other night. He looked like he was fatigued in there, like he was tired. He couldn't lift his arms.
Now, Tony, I hate to interrupt you, but that's another thing. Did you notice in the corner he had his arms up on the ropes? I mean, I was always thought, keep your hands down, let the blood come back again. And it's just, I had a few people watching it with me, and then another guy brought up the point that, Canelo, and it's interesting you say that he didn't seem strong because he seemed to do a lot of strength training, too. You'd see him doing a lot of pull-ups and weights and everything, and I wonder if he was overtrained, or if he was looking past Bivol, or the vegan diet, or maybe it was just too much Bivol.
Yeah.
Maybe we're overthinking it.
Maybe the guy's just talented.
When I was watching the fight, like I said, I kept thinking Winky Wright, and I just kept thinking Winky Wright. Like, solid, tight defense, good jab, straight punches, hard to break through. You have to, you have to go around, which is hard because you don't get clean shots, or you somehow got to break through. And Canelo could not do that. He landed, like I said, his first few rounds, he was landing some good punches to the arms, to the biceps, to the shoulders, and I'm like, yeah, he's fighting a good game plan here. He's doing, as I said, the Marciano game plan. And, he couldn't sustain it.
Yeah, couldn't keep it up. Couldn't live up to the legend himself. Fighting heavier dudes and winning. Couldn't do it. Anyway.
I'll tell you, for the card they had the other night, I mean, they had five televised fights. And I remember reading a preview going into it, and they said, the fight is going to center around the main event, obviously. But it was not a very good undercard. It really wasn't. I would have liked to have gone to Vegas for that fight. In a way, I'm glad I didn't, plus my dad just tested positive for COVID last week. So we couldn't have gone, even if we wanted to. But that undercard was not good. There was that one knockout in the first round, the 6'6" Chinese fighter starts that guy with a single left hand, and after that, it wasn't that good of an undercard.
Talk about not a good card at all. There's one in Latvia on Saturday. At Olympic Hall in Latvia. There's 2 fights on it. One's a super lightweight fight. This is somehow the main event. 0-1 Jegors Mamasevs and 1-18 Istvan Kovacs at super lightweight. The supporting bout, the only supporting bout, is Rainis Porozovs, who is 16-16 with 1 draw. That's the best record on the card. He's fighting Artyom Charniakevich, who is 3-30. 3 wins, 30 losses. Right, so that's crazy. Unreal. 4 fights, 20 wins between the total. Total wins between all 4 people. No. Yeah, 4 people. 2 fights, 4 people. I don't think the fans are going to see much there. Wow, there's some real bad fights this week. Real bad. There's a Jesus one. Jesus might have a chance here in Sinaloa, Mexico. We got bantamweights. Willie Baldo Garcia, 15-5-1, fighting Jesus Fierro Verdugo, who is 7-3-1. There's a guy on here whose middle name is Perfecto. He's 6-0.
good middle name.
Arturo Perfecto Valdez. He's 6-0, fighting Juan Beltran Dominguez, who's 9-25. That's why he's 6-0. Oh boy, this is a double Jesus card. Triple Jesus. No, quadruple Jesus. This is fucking unreal. Oh, Jesus, I didn't mean that. Same card. We have Jesus Esparza Galindo. He is 4-0-1. Facing Adrian Reyes, who is 11-18-1. And then we got a couple Jesus Nunez's. No, one Jesus Nunez. One Jose Nunez and one Jesus Nunez. That's funny. Okay, Jesus Nunez Bojorquez. He is 0-4-1. He definitely needs a miracle. He's fighting Pedro Delgado Gaitan, who is 3-0. And then we got Jesus Valle Armenta, 14-29-1, fighting 3-0 Esteban Soriano Zamora.
Well, Rich, take a look at this. I don't know if you know where Dedham, Massachusetts is.
Dedham.
But they got a fight card there on Saturday night. Dedham, okay, Dedham. They got a fight card there on Saturday night, and it looks like a lot of local guys. Trying to climb the ranks. One of them being James Hagler Jr.
Oh, that's him Saturday?
So,
this Saturday?
if you wouldn't, yeah, it's Saturday. But listen to this line of mismatches. So in the main event, looks like you got a guy, James Perella, who's 10-0. He's fighting a guy, Roque Augustin Junco, who's 10-10-1. Okay, that's somewhat acceptable. Then you got Joe Farina, who's 8-1. He's fighting Raheem Johnson, who's 6-16-1. We get worse now. Then we got Troy Anderson Jr., who's 4-0. He's fighting Michael Gaxiola, who's 4-33. Alex Rivera is 3-0. He's fighting Will Smith, William Paris Smith, who's 3-10-1. And we're going to get worse. We got Thomas O'Toole, who's 3-0. He's fighting Talik Taylor, who's 5-20-2. James Hagler Jr., who's 2-1, is fighting the always dangerous TBA. Now we get the big guys. We got Anthony Cefalo in his pro debut fighting Brandon Grimmett, who's 0-7. And Michael Fontanez, who's making his pro debut, is fighting Rynell Griffin, who's 8-51-2. So if you're free on Saturday night, you want a good night out and see some knockouts, I think you ought to go to Dedham, Mass.
Dedham, that's not even that far. Oh, I wish I could just rent a car and go. But I don't think my dump truck's going to make it.
Now we got some big fights in California this weekend. Look at this. They got 4 cards in California. Yes, I know California is a big state. I get that. I know 2 of them are definitely televised. One I think is on Showtime and one's on the Zone. So the first one I see is in Inglewood, California. Sergey Kovalev, the Crusher. 34-4-1. He's fighting a guy, Tervel Pulov, who's 16-0. So Crusher's fighting an undefeated fighter here. Then we got Kubrat Pulev, who's 28-2. He's fighting Jerry Forrest, who took that big 6'6" Chinese fighter a few months ago to withdraw and almost had him knocked out. We got Evan Holyfield on the card and Fernando Vargas, who's 5-0. So I assume that's Fernando Vargas Jr. In fact, we got 3 Vargases on the card, so Fernando's 3 kids all be fighting. Going on the okay, that's
all 3 Vargases. That's pretty crazy. Emiliano, Amado, and Fernando.
The zone card is one of our former guests, Gilberto Ramirez.
Oh yeah.
At light heavyweight, he's 43-0. He's fighting Dominic Bosel, who's 32-2. Obviously, we know Gilberto from his championship days, super middleweight, and now he's fighting light heavyweight. William Zepeda Segura, 25-0, is fighting Rene Olivardo, 32-11. So once again, you look like you got some decent fights on the zone card.
For
Johnny Ramirez and
the WBA Continental America's lightweight title.
Both 9-0.
Yeah. So Segura versus Alvarado fight. Go ahead, Tony.
Then the one that I am really looking forward to, not so much for the main event, but for the co-feature, is the Showtime card. The main event is Jermell Charlo, and this is a rematch against Brian Carlos Castano. And a lot of people thought Castano won that last fight. It was a split decision draw. And like I said, one judge had Charlo winning pretty handily. The other judge had Castano winning by a point, and the third judge had a draw. From everybody I had talked to, they had thought Castano had edged Charlo out in that fight. So that's the junior middleweight Charlo. I always get the two brothers confused. I know one's a junior and one's a super middleweight. So this one
How could you get confused? There's only one letter off.
I know, Jermell and Jermell. Come on, why do you do that? It reminds me of the Sims brothers from Connecticut,
Yeah.
Travis and Tarvis.
Yeah.
So they just, superimpose the R in the A.
Right.
And they were twins, which made it even worse.
And we got somebody's always got to go in the co-main event. Ennis and Clayton.
Yes, they do.
Jerron
And
Ennis and Castillo
obviously,
Clayton.
Jerron Ennis is well known in the Philadelphia circle, and he is getting his name up there. Now he's fighting a guy, Castillo Clayton, who's from Canada, 34 years old. And I'm going to look at his record because I'm not really familiar with him. So, he's 19-0-1. The last fight was December of last year, a unanimous decision over Cameron Crail. He has a draw with Sergey Lipinev. Now, if you, which I never say to do, but sometimes people will say, well, if they beat this guy and this guy beat this guy, who beat him better is going to be who wins the fight. Oh, sorry, ad came up on my computer. So I see here DeMarcus Chop Corley near the end of Corley's career has TKO'd him. But most of the other names on here I don't really know, except for Sergey Lipinev. They fought to a draw. So two judges had it 114-114. One judge had it 115-113 for Clayton. Now let's go to Boots. Boots is undefeated. He is 28-0. He has 26 knockouts. So if you want to compare versus a common opponent here, they both fought Lipinev, and Boots knocked him out in 6 rounds. Had him down twice. Boots did lose 1 round on 2 of the cards, which may be the only round he has lost in his career so far.
Whoa. So Boots for the win.
Boots has pretty much won every round of every fight. What put him on my map, now granted, I'm from Philadelphia, so I get a lot of, info on the Philadelphia fighters before they really get known out there, just because, hey, do you know so-and-so? So-and-so's training this guy, and so I saw you fight the guy, Mike Arniotis, a couple years ago, back in 2018, and Arniotis was pretty much at the end of his career. Boots took about 2 rounds. Okay, good opportunity to beat the fading fighter who was a, former world title. I think he was either a champion or he may have only been a challenger. I don't remember. But takes about 2 rounds. Hey, that's a good way to get your name out there. Then he turns around and he fights a guy, Raymond Serrano, in Philadelphia. Raymond Serrano is known in Philadelphia as being one of those just tough guys. Lunch pail fighter. He comes in there, you're going to have a hard night work. Not this time. Boots took him out in 2 rounds. I mean, I wasn't able to go live because I was working that weekend. But I remember a friend of mine sent me video clips, and I was like, he did that to Raymond Serrano. It looked like he was fighting a guy that wasn't 24-5. It looked like he was fighting a guy that was 5-24. He went up, and then his last fight fought a guy, Thomas DeLorme, who was also a world title challenger. And he took guys like Terrence Crawford 6 rounds. Boots took him out in 1.5 minutes.
Oh.
So this is another chance to let this kid get some airtime and say, this is maybe the future of this division. They're trying to campaign for a fight with Errol Spence. If he's Errol Spence is mandatory, that could be, a great fight. Like, you want to see Spence and Crawford fight because they are right now the legitimately number 1 and number 2 guys in that division. But Boots is not far off. Not at all.
So I take it you're betting on Boots.
I am betting on Boots to give this guy the boot. He's going to boot him right out of the ring.
Well then, you heard it here first. All right. Well, another notable fight is in Germany.
I want to look at the card I'm attending tomorrow night too.
Yeah.
Because I am going to be in Philadelphia tomorrow night. Actually, it was a casino that I was at a few weeks ago for a comedy show. They are having their first fight card there. So we got Chandler Bunch on the card. He's 18-1-1. The fighter I'm obviously going to see is Sonny Conto, who's 9-0, 7 knockouts. He's fighting Justin Rolfe, who's 7-3. I don't know much about him. We got a couple of very entertaining fighters on the card. We got Christopher Burgos, who's only 3-5-1, but he always gives you a good fight. Bankins, who I saw last time. So we've got about 9 fights on this card, mostly 4-rounders and a few 6-rounders. But, it'll be entertaining to see.
Yep, and we got a pretty interesting card in Germany. Nothing spectacular as far as matchups, but we got a lot of mismatches of the week here. This is like an entire card full of them. And a lot of heavy boys. The lightest fighter on the card is super welterweight matchup. Everything else is light, cruiser, light heavyweight, cruiser, or heavyweight. So we got a main event of Christian Paulak. Very well-known fighter, 42-8-1, hasn't lost very recently, probably because he's fighting guys like this. Omar Jata, who is 16-14 with 1 draw, and somehow this is for a title, the vacant Global Boxing Council World Light Heavyweight title. This is in Germany. And then the heavyweight co-main event, Riza Baidili, who is 7-0. Fighting Georgios Bitsenis, who is 7-7, fighting for the vacant Global Boxing Council Intercontinental Heavyweight title and the vacant Universal Boxing Organization International Heavyweight title. It only gets worse, folks. Okay, Michael Olashak at cruiserweight. He is 9-0. Fighting Yeselat Berkta, who is 6-51. 6-51. Not the worst record on the card, though. So the light guys, super welterweights, Volkan Hachi Hasanoglu. I'm definitely butchering that. 2-0. Fighting Michael Klempert, who is 4-46-3. 3 draws. And then we go to another heavyweight fight. Edonis, not Adonis. Edonis Berisha. He is 3-0. Fighting Engin, E-N-G-I-N, without the E, Engin. Solmaz, S-O-L-M-A-Z is this guy's name. Okay, he has an impressive record of 7 wins, 56 losses, and also 3 draws. Not as bad as this next guy, though, because he doesn't have as many wins. 1-0 cruiserweight, Erkan Doru, fighting Jan Sendrai, who is 1-20. 1 lousy win. 20 losses. Then we got Rocky. Rocky has a good chance in the first fight of the night. Rocky Zander, light heavyweight. 2-0, fighting Joseph Holub. This is the worst, absolute worst record on the card. 5 wins to go with 114 losses and 1 measly draw.
Damn.
Wow. Joseph Holub. Holy shit. No. Holy shit, Holub. That's mean, Rich. Anyway, we have some MMA fights to talk about. It was some crazy, weird fights at UFC 274.
Like the kick heard around the world?
Yes. What a brutal kick. And actually, the meme game hit harder than the actual kick. But he actually was in the hospital for a little while, but he got out. He's fine, Ferguson. But they made a lot of fun of the look on his face when the kick connected. And I mean, it was just so perfect.
Yeah.
Landed right on the spot that you're supposed to land that kind of kick. And it didn't even crunch his toes or nothing. Like, it just hit him right on the button. And it crunched his face down so hard from the impact that he looked like that actor there. Who was it? In Fugitive. What's the guy's name? The marshal. I can't think of his name. But anyway. Old school actor. Drawing a blank.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones, yes. So, Tony
Oh,
Ferguson.
you know, the right guy? Oh, shit.
Tony Ferguson looked like Tommy
Yeah,
Lee Jones.
baby.
Just totally crumpled him. Knocked him out instantly. And it reminded me a lot of those videos that we talked about when we had those blue-collar boxer guys on the show. And they had that Harvard video with the monkeys and the helmets getting knocked out. From their heads getting twisted. They would just knock them out. It was like some sort of stupid experiment. That's just exactly what happened. I mean, his brain slapped against his skull and it's knockout. Total knockout. From a front kick. Just took him 17 seconds into the second round. That's the one fight I totally missed. Well, actually, I missed over the same Crow, too. But I saw Esparza versus Namajunas, the whole thing, and then the main event, the whole thing. But, yeah. It was a tough night for DraftKings and FanDuel. I did not win a single penny. And it all came down to the seventh fight of the night. Brandon Royval beating Matt Schnell by a guillotine choke. And also you had to have Andre Fiallo beating Cameron Van Camp. He was actually very expensive, Fiallo. I guess people expected him to win, but did not have him on any of the cards. Almost everything else was a decision, except for the main event and the Chandler fight. So I did have Chandler on a few cards, but not with enough support for the knockouts. The biggest disappointment for me was the co-main event. Carla Esparza beat a very timid Rose Namajunas. She didn't seem to want to engage, and then the whole backstory that Carla Esparza is about to get married, didn't want to mess up her face, just makes this very suspicious outcome. It's like, was there an agreement beforehand that she wouldn't rough up her face? Like, because they're ladies? Like, what's going on there? And then Rose came out, and her only excuse after the fight was like, why can't I have a technical fight every now and then? Why do I always have to go to war with people? And that's just, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, you're in the war business. So I don't know what happened there, but that was just a big letdown. Like, even the announcers were saying, like, how do we score this? Like, there was like 3 punches landed that round.
It worked out perfect for me because upstairs I had I had the boxing on, and then I could come out. What I was worried about was if we had some good MMA action during the Canelo fight, that would have been torture. But it just worked out perfect. Nice. Just I guess I've heard it was the worst fight in UFC history or MMA history.
Yeah, it was bad. Wow. Namajunas was entirely
defensive.
So
really, good for them. God bless them.
She just didn't want to engage at all, and it's crap. Absolute crap. And then the easiest prediction I ever made came true last week. Charles Oliveira got the submission over Justin Gaethje. It didn't take him as long. I thought it was going to happen in the second. It didn't take him as long as I thought, but he got it in the first, rear naked choke, and he weathered some real tough shots from Gaethje, but, I mean, he also felt safe enough to kind of lie on the ground for a minute and recover each time. Because, if Gaethje got down there with him, he was going to get choked out with a triangle or something. So Gaethje would just let him sit there and recover his thoughts and get back to his feet and start over. And then, got caught in the rear naked choke, tight one. And that's what Oliveira does to you. And I think his chin almost gets better and better every fight, because he hasn't really had that knockout blow in a long, long time. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to go through him. But he did lose his title on the scales, which is kind of weird because there was a controversy. Not just because of him missing weight, but because of a lot of fighters saying the scale was off. More than one. I don't know what the other ones were, but I saw the headline, a couple headlines about fighters being pissed off about the scale situation. But apparently Oliveira is the only one who lost the title over it. But I think he's going to get that back really quick, whoever they put in front of him. But yeah, this one was kind of a little bit of a disappointment. I thought Gaethje would hang tougher, but just like Khabib did to him. You get a guy like that who's all slugger in a tough position. All the wrestling in the world can't help you when you're in a choke, and your back is against the other guy. There's nothing you can do. It's crazy. But Oliveira is just so good at it, and he's can get you when you least expect it. And I just love that streak that he's got going. I mean, you can't bet against it. So that was a great fight. 3 minutes and 22 seconds. It was over. I had him as my MVP, but they didn't save me. Because I had Rose next to him. Then we had Oven St. Pro getting a split decision win over Mauricio Hua. He was a cheap one, so I had him on a couple of my lineups. Did not help. And then Randy Brown versus Kalen Williams. That was also a split decision win for Randy. It definitely had chaos on one of my hard lineups. Francisco Trinaldo got a unanimous decision win over Danny Roberts. He was one of the non-knockouts that you had to have because he did a really good job dominating that one. And then Macy Chiasson, she won over Norma Dumont, but it was a split decision. Those are always big point-wise. And as I said, Brandon Royval was the big one. The big sleeper hit over Matt Schnell. That was a guillotine choke submission early on in the first round. 2 minutes and 14 seconds in. Blagoy Ivanov at heavyweight fought to a unanimous decision win over Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Andre Fialho over Cameron Van Camp by knockout. 2 minutes and 35 seconds into their fight. We had Tracy Cortez getting a unanimous decision win over Melissa Gato. CJ Vergara got a split decision win over Clayson Rodriguez. And Lupita Godinez over Ariane Carnelossi by unanimous decision. And then first fight of the night, a unanimous decision for Journey Newson over Fernando Garcia. And we don't have PFL until June now. But we had quite the big event to kick off the season in a big way last week. And Kayla Harrison had a tough one. Marina Moknatkina, however you pronounce it, she pushed it all the way to the end of the fight. 3 rounds. Ended up being an unanimous decision for Kayla. She controlled enough of the fight to win, but Marina was no cheap date. She was a tough dance partner. She definitely came to scrap it out. She ended up falling to Kayla. And then we had Carlos Leo Miranda beating Ray Cooper III, one of last season's big winners. Lost one of his first big fights here.
Yeah, that was an upset.
Decision. Big upset. And Anthony Pettis back to his winning ways over Miles Price with a triangle choke submission, 4 minutes and 17 seconds into the first. And I didn't see that one, but I did see Rory McDonald make quick work of Brett Cooper by rear naked choke submission. First round, 2 minutes and 23 seconds in. Not sure if she's related to Ferdy, but Larissa Pacheco at lightweight beating Zamzagul Faizalanova by TKO. 1 minute and 25 seconds into their fight. A lot of quick wins. And then a bunch of decisions. I'm not going to go through them all because there's some very tough names to pronounce. But I will mention this one. Jara Al-Salawi beating Gleison Tebow. Still fighting. A lot of fights. Yeah, it was a split decision though, so we obviously had a halfway decent fight. And that's about it for the big ones. Of course, we had another fight between Ryan Bader and Chick Congo at Bellator 280 last week, and it was a unanimous decision win for Ryan Bader. Big surprise there. All 5 rounds. Not really a big surprise to me, but yeah, Chick did not impress enough to win on any scorecards, I believe. Got smoked pretty bad. Oh boy, just found a tick on me. That's what happens when it goes right from winter to summer overnight. You guys notice that? Alright, so Czech Congo, yeah, did not impress. Did not disprove the hype that I threw at him, the bad hype last week. Talking about his fighting style never impressed me. Well, didn't impress Ryan Bader either. So that heavyweight fight went to Bader. And then Yoel Romero had like a sparring session with Alex Polizzi, but boy, Alex was a tough son of a gun. Did not want to be dispatched there, and it took till the very last second of the fight for Yoel to get a TKO, but he was definitely pacing himself and taking it easy. Like he really, it was almost like he didn't want to knock Polizzi out. Like he just kind of gained respect for him, the fact that he could just take so much punishment. But Yoel, for the little output he had going, just did a lot of damage. Polizzi's face was like falling apart by the end of it. So that was a TKO, 4 minutes and 59 seconds into the 3rd round. And Davey Gallen before that at lightweight totally demolished Benjamin Brander in the 2nd round with punches TKO, 3 minutes and 18 seconds in. Lorenz Larkin did it quicker than that against Kyle Stewart with knees and punches. 4s were wild, 4 minutes and 44 seconds into the 1st round. Mike Shipman losing to Gregory Babine by knockout, 2 minutes and 11 seconds into their fight. Punches. Pedro Carvalho losing to Pyotr Niedzielski by split decision before that. And nothing really too crazy before that. These are a lot of freaking hard to pronounce names on these undercards all of a sudden. And then we have the upcoming bouts. We have UFC on ESPN 36 this weekend. Jan Blachowicz back in action. 28-9, fighting Alexander Rakic, who is 14-2. I haven't got into MMA Rain Man mode on these yet for my picks. I had a pretty rough week last week, so I got to regroup and really study this tomorrow morning. But co-main event, Ryan Spann, 19-7, fighting Ion Cutelaba at light heavyweight. He's 16-6-1. Sounds good on paper. We'll see how it translates. Davey Grant, 13-6 at bantamweight, fighting Louis Smoka, who's 17-8. And Caitlin Chukagian, 17-4, fighting Amanda Ribas, who is 11-2 at flyweight. Frank Camacho, 22-9, probably no relation to Hector, but Frank Camacho fighting Manuel Roberto Torres, who's 12-2, and Jake Hadley at flyweight, 8-0, fighting Alan Nascimento, who's 18-6. Also at flyweight, a female fight, Vivian Araujo, who is 10-3, fighting Andrea Lee, who's 13-5. And we got Michael the Menace Johnson. He is 19-17, fighting Alan Patrick, 15-3. I don't think I've ever heard of that guy, but that's a pretty decent record at lightweight. Johnson is no cheap date, as they say, though. And Verna Jandaroba, 17-3, fighting Angela Hill, who's 13-11. At strawweight. A couple journeymen. Back-to-back fights there. Journeywoman, Angela Hill, 13-11. Alright, second fight. Tatsuro Taira, 10-0 at flyweight. Fighting Carlos Candelario, who's only had one loss in 9 fights, 8-1. And we got another similar fight in the first fight of the night. Nick Maximoff at middleweight, 8-0, fighting Andrei Petrosky, who's 7-1. And then Bellator 281. MVP versus Storley. Who is MVP, you say? Michael Venom Page. 20-1 is his record. Logan Storley is 13-1. I don't know. I have not seen out of Storley what it takes to beat Page, but Page has had weak moments, so you never know. This one is in London, England, though, so chances of Page losing are pretty slim. Co-main event, interesting, is Lyoto Machida, 26-11, fighting Fabian Edwards, who's 9-2. Then we got a female fight, Denise Keelholt, 6-3, fighting Kana Watanabe, who is 10-1-1 at flyweight. There's a big blast from the past. Paul Daly still in action. 42-18 with 2 draws. That is a phenomenal MMA record. Not as good as another guy further down the card, but we'll get to him. Wendell Giacomo is Paul Daly's opponent. 9-2 at welterweight. Does not have a lot of experience, but does have a big win ratio there. And then he's a fighter, but his name is Trainer. Luke Trainer. He is 5-0 at light heavyweight. Fighting Simon Bayong, who is 7-2. And here's the better record. 41-13, Daniel Weichel. We got him on the show for like 5 minutes due to technical difficulties back in the day. But yeah, he got some good answers. Anyway, Robert Whiteford is his opponent at featherweight, 16-4. Seventh fight of the night, Oliver Enkamp, 10-3, fighting Mark Lemminger, who's 12-4. We're getting another female fight. Kate Jackson, 11-5-1 at flyweight, fighting Elena Kalionidou, who is 8-4. And Alfie Davis in the fifth fight, 14-4, fighting Tim Wild with an E, 14-4 at lightweight. Andrew Fisher before that, 18-8-1 at featherweight, fighting Attila. I wonder if his nickname is the Hun. Attila Korkmaz is 12-6. Charlie Ward, the third fight of the night, 9-4, fighting Alan Carlos, who's 13-9. How about this record? Lee Chadwick, 27-15 with 1 draw at light heavyweight, fighting Maciej Rozanski, who is 13-3. Then first fight of the night, Chiara Penko, who is 6-3, fighting Lanchana Green, who is 4-4 with 1 draw. That's a female fight. Flyweight. That's it. Whew, that was a lot to get to. We did that quick. So yeah, we'll have plenty to talk about next week. That is for sure. We didn't even really go through all the big fights from last week, but just in case people are looking for some leftovers here. Montana Love won his fight against Gabriel Galaz Valenzuela last Saturday. I don't have the results actually right in front of me, but I do have just the breakdown. Ryan Rozicki beating Yamil Alberto Peralta. And yeah, nothing else. Oh, Anthony Martinez losing to David Light on Saturday. That's about it. Still a lot of grumbling about the Logan Paul versus Mike Tyson fight. I saw a headline recently that they're trying to get $300 million for that thing.
Oh my God.
Jeez. It's hard to doubt, though. Anything's possible with those guys. It's crazy. Anyway, I guess that's it for us. Should You guys have any tidbits to add?
No, you guys just looking forward. We got a lot of fights this weekend.
Yeah. The Zone, Showtime, everything. All right, well, till next week. Thanks for stopping by.
All right, guys, let's enjoy the fights.
All right, guys, have a good weekend.
Too.
I'll send you some pictures of the fight tomorrow night.
Nice. Tell Sonny good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get him on the show too.